from day trading, you can make a lot of money pretty good. Like you mentioned earlier for the intro, my best day was $1.67 million in one day. I put essentially $60,000 on this trade. In this trade, the one thing I like about trading versus real estate is, at least the way that I see it, it's kind of recession proof, because if news is going good, I can ride the wave up. If the markets are going bad or there's war or whatever, I could ride the wave coming right back down.
Yeah.
In real estate, you could kind of do that, I guess, but not in a day.
Yeah.
So with trading, I essentially, it's called buying puts. So I don't want to use the word bet, but a lot of people look at trading as gambling. So let's just put it in gambling perspective. I'm placing a bet that from where I'm getting in, if I buy a put, I'm betting that whatever stock that I'm invested in is going to come down. So in this case, I trade SPY, the S&P 500, and I'm betting that it's going to come down. Well, on this particular day, it went from $420 down to $405. That's only a 5% move. But in the option world, it can translate to thousands of percent return. So in this particular trade, it was over 13,000% return.
That's insane.
So for people that are like, what's 13,000% mean? That means if you put in $1,000, you would have made $130,000 if you captured the whole move.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild.
But what would be the downside risk if you don't play that right?
So this is the other thing why I kind of like trading and real estate but versus real estate, where trading, I set what's called a stop loss.
Okay.
So for simple math, let's say I get in at something that cost $1. I'm looking for it, if I'm going to buy calls now, so I'm placing a bet towards the upside, is I want that dollar to go to $2, and now I make 100% return.
Yeah.
If that dollar goes sideways on me, and let's say it goes to 95 cents, so 5% loss, I could cut my loss right at that point. So I'm not, and let's just say I put in, I don't know, $10,000. So I'm not risking the full 10,000. Once it hits that 5%, I'm only losing $500.
All right.
So that's kind of how, as a trader, what I really didn't understand when I first started getting into this, and what a lot of people that see, social is great, but it's also what people don't see is the hard work behind it. You just see the result, right?
Yeah.
So people don't understand that it took years to develop a strategy. And just like with real estate, you have to have a set plan and a team and execute upon the plan, right? You can't just go in and, I'm going to buy this dump. You can end up getting into it and it's like
way overpriced. You don't have the zoning to do what you want to do. It's just like
the zoning permits don't work. Yeah, you're stuck. And now what are you going to do? And now at that point, you're out almost all that money,
Mm-hmm.
So with trading, there's some hedging that you could do. You could kind of protect yourself. But with it, when I first started, I was losing all the time. But when I was winning big. Like I would have $5,000 days. And this is when I started young. So people that don't know, I started trading as a single dad. I was 19 years old. And the day that I started trading or got into the market is the day I couldn't afford diapers. So the day I couldn't afford diapers, I go into Babies R Us and I can't pay. That same day I got fired from my work. I was working at Champs, making $7.25 an hour. And so I go home, my mom was like, where's diapers? I was like, oh, my car didn't go through. She's like, well, good thing you got a job. I was like, well, I just got fired.
Yeah.
So that next day I went to Barnes & Noble and I found this book, which I think a lot of us have read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
Completely changed my life. But in that book, it talks about three main concepts: real estate, business, investing. So I was like, I don't have money for real estate. I don't know what to do for business. So I just doubled down on investing and just kept putting money into the market. 2016, I make my first mill. I also went the traditional route as well.
So go ahead. When did you work at Champs?
So I was 19 years old.
So when did you get fired at Champs?
At 19.
No.
I started working at 16, and then I got fired at 19.
Oh, no, what year was that?
2009, 2010.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it was a 6-year.
It was like about, yeah.
Yeah.
And then so within that time, I was like, dude, so I get fired, and I'm like, all right, this sucks. And I go back and find another Foot Locker job, or it was like Dick's Sporting Goods, something like that. And start selling shoes. And then in the book, in Rich Dad Poor Dad, on the first chapter, he talks about how they were like doing a side hustle to make money. They're like counterfeiting pennies,
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, what's the side hustle I can do? And then I started realizing, well, I could get discounts off of shoes, and some of these shoes are really popular, like Jordans and stuff. So then I would just resell them on eBay for a profit. Then I just started reselling other stuff. So I was essentially what is in the modern day the eBay arbitrage, right?
Yeah.
And it started to get really good where I was making about 500 to $1,000. But then in that whole time while I'm raising Tay and working, I'm going to school. So I get a bachelor's in bio. Fast forward, I get 2 master's degrees. I have a MS, a Master of Science in Biotechnology with the emphasis in biomedical tissue engineering. And then I had an MBA with the emphasis in finance and management. 2014, at the age of 24, I get a job at Amgen, starting off with a $65,000 salary. And so I had been surviving off of like less than 5. So all of that money went into the market, and I've been spending, along with doing all that stuff, learning and reading books on trading, investing, on just different stuff. And I dedicated my life to science. So naturally, I just started investing in tech companies and in small cap biotech companies. Small cap means there's a limited amount of shares, right? And so if the stock takes off, like say it has FDA approval or something like that, it could run up really high. So some of these went from like $2 to $50. Some went even from $5 to $200. And long story short, all that money kept going in, and I made my first meal in 2016.
If you've enjoyed this clip and you'd like to watch the full episode, you can do so on my main YouTube channel by clicking the video here.